Warning, warning, this podcast contains spoilers.
Listen at your own risk.
Welcome to Medium Shift, the podcast that investigates stories that stack up from medium to medium through the adaptation process.
In this episode, we see to this hit before we miss the end of Reanathon. It's Battleship.
Holy shit! Did you plan that before?
Yes.
That's very impressive.
Thank you.
For everyone at home, I never know what his opening pun is going to be. That one was a literal salvo. In the classic sense. And I am legitimately very impressed. More creativity went into that opening line than into the entire movie itself. Also, welcome to Medium Shift. I'm Chris.
And I'm Ev.
And this episode, we are concluding Reanathon with basically the only reason we wanted to do this whole collection of episodes in the first place. It's Battleship, baby! We've gone from Clue, potentially the best board game adaptation to screen, to Battleship, which might be the worst. I don't know, I'm going to have to look at a list, but it's...
Unless Candyland has an adaptation, I'm going to put it out there.
Yeah. It's bad time. So what? There is so much I want to discuss about this film. Surprisingly,
Just go for it.
No. What do you think? We'll get our impressions out of the way as usual. Like, what did you think of Battleship? Was this your first time seeing it?
Yes, this was my first time seeing it.
Okay.
And I basically thought it was a pile of shit with a few zirconians in there. Like a few gems. Not good enough to be diamonds. But some clever and fun little scenes in an otherwise terrible film.
Yep, sure. It's, this movie is just quite bad. I think the way I can kind of describe it is Transformers Light. Like, it is a more generic version of something that was already bad to begin with. And that is very, very clearly they just wanted this to be another Transformers franchise. Like, everything from the color grading to the way it's shot to just how much it masturbates over the US Army is just all straight from the Michael Bay handbook. But it's not Michael Bay. So in some respects...
It's still Hasbro, though.
Sorry?
It's still Hasbro,
It is still Hasbro, though. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think in some respects, this movie is actually better than a lot of the Michael Bay Transformers, because I can actually sometimes tell what is happening in action scenes.
Okay.
Which is nice, vaguely, on occasion. But, I mean, outside of that...
I feel that kind of is led weirdly to the source material. They had to somehow squeeze in the fact that it was a board game into it. And just that alone meant they actually had to stop and think about what the fuck they were doing with their action scenes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the whole point of Battleship is basically, it matters where you locate the ships. Like, there is a spatial aspect to that game. And the way they kind of manifest that in the film means that it is more coherent than it is in other... terrible blockbusters.
And I will admit
very
that
fun
was
and dumb.
For me, that was one of the Zirconians in the rough, because the way they actually had to think about how the hell they were going to put a board game into a fucking war movie, I thought actually was really clever in the way they did that, in the fact that they're using little tsunami beacons to set up the grid.
Yeah,
really clever for the movie.
Really clever is a very strong way of putting it.
Like, the fact that they had something dumb and had to put it into something even dumber in the most roundabout method they could. I actually think they did a clever job in that process.
Sure, I will give you that at the very least. Like, it's not like there's literally someone playing Battleship in the background and that is the only reference to it or something like that. So, yeah, I ultimately think this movie is kind of bad and also kind of generic. I had fun watching it purely because I had actually seen it before.
Oh, okay.
I saw it when it first came out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why?
It was just in that time of my life, it was a regular thing on the weekends to just go to, I don't know, Video Easy and just rent out whatever was the latest thing. And one time I just remember watching Battleship. I don't know why. I don't know why we made that choice. I was probably how was it? Was this 2011, this movie?
2012.
2012, yeah. So I was like 14 years old. So I should have known better.
The world was coming to an end.
The world was coming to... That's true. So I'm like, hey, why not go out watching Battleship? What better way to die in the end times? Yeah, so I mean, this time since I knew what to expect, like just because it was so dumb, I was essentially making fun of the movie. And I don't think it's quite in that so bad it's good oeuvre, because it's not... It's, in many respects, it's just too generic and passable to be that. But I kind of made my own fun while watching it. Yeah, this is a bad movie with a generic script and unlikable characters and terrible dialogue and really nonsensical ideas and conceptions, and also based off something that never should have been adapted in the first place. But hey, besides all of that...
Jumping in on your point about not being so bad it's good. I think there was a bit that was so bad it was good. I think the second half, where it sort of lent into the fact that it was being stupid and fun and all that. I think that was the so bad it's so good, because it was just fun.
Yeah.
But because of everything that came in the first half, all the setup, all the terrible character development, all the terrible characters, the unlikable protagonists.
Character in the loosest possible term.
I actually saw, weirdly, development in our lead.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because he went from the most assholey, unlikable piece of shit ever to a slightly bearable, kind of feels like he can set up relationships more than just, I want to get my dick wet.
He's a functional human being now at the end of the movie.
Functional is...
Well, vaguely. More functional than when he starts.
He goes from a trope to an actual character.
Sure. Once again, character loose word, but yes, I know what you mean.
Like, you could see someone like that in real life. You could not see someone like how he was in the beginning in real life.
Yeah, it's the most generic, flat out, just kind of bad, predictable. Like, the moment that character is introduced, especially with the brother Stickler, who's like, oh, you gotta make something of yourself, and you're gonna join me in the Navy and everything like that.
Because rah-rah military, that's how you get ahead in life.
Yeah, exactly. Rah-rah military. Like, it's it's a real beautiful message we're sending to all the people out in the world, that if you have no direction in life, you need to make something of yourself. Therefore, serve your country and go die for a bunch of capitalists, right? So, Yep, great, love it. No, we'll save that till later. We'll try and keep things consistent. But oh boy, I have I was telling Evan before we started the podcast, but while watching the movie, I just kept noting down like a list of weird, dumb things, and I just started reading them through afterwards. And oh boy, there's some gems.
With progressively more capital letters.
Yep. It just got more expletive as the movie went on, essentially. So yeah, I'm not saying anyone should ever see this movie. I'm saying probably the most fun you could have with this is kind of put it on in the background while drunk with a large group of friends and then just yell things at the screen. But even then
skip to the middle bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you could even skip the first half, like all of the dumb, predictable setup. There's like, we've sent a beacon out to another planet and, oh no, aliens! Like, it's basically just Independence Day, but they've managed to shoehorn battleships into it. So, yep. And Independence Day wasn't fresh in like 96, let alone in 2012. Jesus.
Yeah. I reckon from the point where they have to rescue the sailors from the Japanese ship, and we see how ignorantly racist this guy is.
Oh god, this movie is, even though it tries to do like a ham-fisted thing of, they're buddies that respect each other by the end, oh boy, no.
Although it did make the one line near the very end where he's like, Art of War, I finally get that. No, you missed that entirely. And I'm just like, that is so sweet for me. He finally just gets some little bit of, you're fucking ignorant.
Yep. Yeah, that was probably the only joke in the movie that I legitimately laughed at, and only because it felt like it'd come up, and it doesn't justify all of the outright racism and caricatures in the rest of the movie. But I at least appreciated that one moment. I was like, yeah, you're still an ignorant, dumb American. Just very fun. Don't know if it was intended to be quite that effective, but hey, that's what it comes across as.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thoughts I have about this movie at the very least, but if we're going to broadly touch on it, obviously this film was released in 2012, starring Taylor Kitsch, who was in 3 box office bombs that year. He had a very, very good year, which basically crushed any potential of him being a leading man ever again.
Yeah.
There was this, John Carter, and then a Oliver Stone movie that I'm not particularly familiar with and have not seen, but I looked it up a little bit afterwards. This was, in many respects, a lot of people can kind of point to this, as I've talked about before, is Hasbro wanting to do another Transformers thing, basically. Like, very much it is in a very, very similar vein to the way those movies are constructed. To even just the visual design of the aliens. Those balls are essentially...
Yes, that is exactly what I thought. They were just rejects from the Transformers film.
Exactly.
From the way they're like weirdly constructed in the thing and then launched out and then... I don't know, I was expecting some sort of like... dick joke.
Yeah, exactly.
Like at some point.
God, you have like a giant series of like metallic balls like rolling around, and this movie is so dumb that like I'm legitimately amazed that they passed that opportunity by to make a balls joke. Yeah, it's really strange, but that is the kind of joke that would feel in place in a Transformers movie.
Yes,
so right there. The difference is, I think, with at the very least, is they have Peter Berg as the director of this film. I legitimately think Peter Berg is not a terrible director. I've seen a couple of his films. Deepwater Horizon, especially, I think is a legitimately quite good and well-constructed thriller about the explosion on the Deepwater Horizon oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico, obviously based on real events. I think that is quite a good movie and is quite well-constructed, as well as he did a film about the Boston bombing, Patriots Day, which has some problematic ideological elements to it, but I also think is a very well-constructed thriller. And I actually think that this movie, at the very least, because that it has a slightly more assured direction at the helm, that, as I was kind of saying before, the action feels a little bit more coherent and straightforward. The ultimate problem is really the script. Like, this fails on a pure conceptual and construction level.
Yeah.
Because it is based on Battleship, and Battleship, obviously, for anyone who's familiar with the game, has very, very little story to it.
Mm-hmm. I do want to bring up one more weird Zirconian in this pile of crap.
You are enjoying that word, aren't you? Zirconian. Yes. Yep.
Well, because that's what it is. It's not Diamond. It's trying to play itself off as being more actiony and more fun than it actually is.
Sure.
But there's the montage sequence set to Thunderstruck.
Oh, Jesus.
That was so stupid. And, like, if you ignore all the rah-rah veterans, patriots, woo, let's do this, I actually thought it was a bit of stupid fun. Like, that little scene by itself.
Like, almost Top Gun-esque.
Yes.
I actually thought there was a very significant Top Gun influence in this film as well. Like, especially during the opening soccer scene. Well, not opening scene, but, one of the earlier soccer scenes and things like that. The only thing I could think of was the volleyball sequence.
Aggressive, homoerotic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sports.
I wish they leaned into that, honestly.
Yeah.
But whereas Top Gun, I think, is smart and fun, and also, well, not smart, sorry, but it is, like, fun in an entertaining 80s kind of way. For this, it just felt a little bit, I don't know, ham-fisted, I guess? Yeah.
Although I did just come up with a interesting theory, just thinking back to that scene. There was a line in there where it's like, after he gets kicked in the head, someone's like, and he's been all aggressive and stuff. It's like, oh, must have a concussion. And I'm just like, oh, maybe the rest of the movie, his entire development is based on the fact that they've got a captain who is concussed.
That's a fan theory I can get behind. Even better, the reason that he saw aliens at all is because he was concussed. This whole thing is essentially just a fever dream of the stress that he endured after being concussed in a soccer match while trying to ask the father of his, which is it's so dumb. The father of his girlfriend, who is Liam Neeson, because of course, because he makes great movie decisions.
There's the ones that he wants to do, and the ones where he just needs to get paid.
Yeah, sure. He probably made a very lovely house out of the money from this movie. So good for Liam Neeson. Good for him. Glad he's making money, but also
go back to Love Actually stuff.
Also, just make him the protagonist. Make Liam Neeson the lead. He's infinitely more likable and has so much more gravitas than Taylor Kitsch ever will. So,
and in my opinion, has the second best joke of the whole film.
Which one was
where
that?
he just says, "No, you can't marry my daughter."
Yeah. That was quite good until they undercut it moments later with the taco, which I'm like, ugh.
The chicken burrito.
That's right, the chicken burrito. Yeah, it's dumb, but also like,
and that weirdly would have made nice come up, and it's like, especially his line, it's like, yeah, the world is one thing, my daughter is the other, because clearly he's going, cool, you're a great military person, you're a sucky person though.
Yeah, I mean, which is accurate.
Yes,
he's correct, he should say no.
Yeah,
which kind of made me annoyed in the end when they just say, you're all right, come and have a chicken burrito with me. I'm like, it's dumb. He deserves more consequences. But yeah, like, legitimately, like, Liam Neeson is the only person in this movie taking it seriously, which is very funny. And also just make him the lead. Like, I don't even hate Taylor Kitsch that much. He's kind of in, like, the kind of generic white guy main role of, like, say, a Sam Worthington or a Jai Courtney, basically, where he is not terrible. He is just purely entirely functional. Funnily enough, the only role where I've seen Taylor Kitsch in where he kind of breaks out of that is Gambit in X-Men Origins. Weirdly enough, even though that movie is awful, I think he's legitimately all right as Gambit. Like, surprisingly.
Are we going to go back into our little debate of how X-Men Origins Wolverine isn't as terrible as people make it out to be?
Oh no, it's still mostly terrible. No.
No, that's my opinion.
All right, we will do an episode on this down the line, absolutely.
Yes.
But yes, I think.
But him as Gambit is one of the reasons why I don't think it's as terrible as people think.
Sure. So yeah, I don't think he's legitimately that awful. Like, there's a recurring thing in this movie where I'm like, Liam Neeson's really good, and like Taylor Kitsch is not the worst thing in the world, and Jesse Plemons can be really funny and really good as well, and like Peter Berg, I don't hate the director, but it's just.
And Rihanna looked like she was having fun.
Yeah, good for her. Why not? But I mean, like, just the foundation of the movie is like flawed and broken in the first part, so it's just never going to succeed.
No.
Irrespective, like, they could have made it. Actually, no, that's a lie. I was about to say they could have gotten Christopher Nolan to direct it and it would still be bad. But no, I would legitimately want to see how Christopher Nolan adapts Battleship.
And so we just get Dunkirk a few years earlier.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I just think it fails in that respect. A couple other things around the movie. This movie was made for a budget of $220 million, which is insane.
Yep.
Like, I don't understand how that a level of money kind of go thrown at it. Mostly because, once again, they were expecting a Transformers. It did not do particularly well either. Like, it was not a particularly good hit at the box office. Jeremy Renner was actually supposed to star in it until he dropped out to star in a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, which is a smart move.
Yep.
Until he inevitably dropped out of that movie as well, though, funnily enough. So,
Still, smart move.
yeah, also very smart move. So the retirees at the end of the movie are actually retirees. Like, they were not actors, which is kind of nice. It doesn't make that scene any less jingoistic.
No.
But kind of nice. And the amputee, what's his name? I've completely forgotten the character's name, but the guy who tags along with the girlfriend on the mountain, which is a subplot because of reasons. He is an actual army amputee soldier who is an actual army colonel, funnily enough. So, yeah, not an actor. He's only had a couple of roles, funnily. Yeah.
Gregory D. Gadsden.
That's
is
the
his
one.
name.
Yeah,
His actual name, I still don't know what his
sure. So
character's name was, because who gives a fuck?
Yeah, who cares? It might have been said a couple of times, if that. But yeah, like, I appreciate that they actively went out of their way to find a non-actor, someone who was legitimately part of the military complex.
Yep.
I appreciate that at
and
least.
legitimately disabled.
Yes, absolutely that too. I think that is legitimately great that they would give a role specifically for a W amputee and then just completely lean into it into the movie. So it was a little bit. I didn't love kind of the rhetoric around that. Sometimes felt a little bit tone deaf and almost ableist in some respects. But I still appreciated the fact that he was in there at all. So yeah, which is quite cool. Oh, the other thing regarding, I guess we'll get into this regarding adaptation, but the idea of dropping the anchor and then turning the ship around like suddenly.
Tokyo drifting a battleship. Yeah,
Tokyo drifting a battleship. Apparently, that is an actual thing called club hauling. It is very often used on like sailing vessels and fishing vessels.
That makes
much smaller vessels. If you were to do that on a battleship, you would probably cause a massive amount of damage and severe casualties. But the inception, the genesis of that idea actually has a foundation in real life, which
makes a lot of sense. I think I have heard stuff like being used on like you said, much smaller ships.
Yeah, exactly. I was just genuinely surprised that there was a kind of basis behind that. So, which is good to know.
Holy crap! The movie did its research.
Yeah,
sort of.
In some
on
respects.
The worst bits.
Yeah, it got all of the military stuff right, which I am not surprised considering the movie. But yes, it did. All right, should we get into the board game then?
Okay.
Battleship. What is your perspective on Battleship? Have you played Battleship before? What do you think of the game Battleship? Do you have fond memories of the first time you played Battleship?
I've played it a few times. It's a game.
It is a
it's
game.
It's not that great.
It's very, yep.
Because it's
insightful.
basically just blind shooting until you get one lucky fluke.
Yeah, there is a psychological element where we should probably start premise, like, for people who are not familiar with the game Battleship, which I assume you are. I don't really know. Who knows? But it is a 1v1 game in which you have, like, a board where you place essentially just ships to hide from the enemy, and then you take turns calling out coordinates on those board, and you have to tell them whether they hit the ship or whether they miss. the first person to sink all of the other people's ships wins.
Yep.
That's why it's called Battleship. There have been variations across it as well. There's a version with islands. There's a version with is based on hex grid instead. But that is like the general conception of the game. Yes. So there is a lot of chance of just
pegs to indicate when things have hit and miss.
Yes, exactly. Which they kind of visually allude to with some of the weapons in the film, funnily enough. So very dumbly, but yes, it's there. Yeah, so like it's a lot of it is chance, absolutely. I would argue that there is a psychological element to it as well, and that you are essentially trying to predict where your opposing player placed all of their ships, especially like I remember back in the day, because I've played a lot of Battleship in my time, just because it was a game that I had as a kid. If I played someone in sequence, like and time again, you start to try and essentially predict where they're going to put their ships. Like there are certain tactics, like some people used to put them all around the edge of the board. Sometimes people clustered them all together in the middle. Sometimes they would spread them out. Sometimes it would just be entirely random. But like trying to predict that, like that is part of the fun in some respect. It is an oppositional game, which they obviously represent in the film through like the military soldiers versus the aliens. So yeah, that is the premise of the game. In the original game, there are no aliens.
Nope.
It is ships versus ships. The game has been around. There's a few origins to it at the very least, but a lot of people talk about a game being used in World War One as the foundation from French soldiers, I think it was. And then it was turned into a commercial.
Pretty much landlocked country.
Yeah, funnily enough. And then it was turned into like a commercially available board game called Salvo in 1931, and it's just been iterated on since then and adopted into the Hasbro fold in the same way Monopoly and other games have as well. So that's pretty much it. I don't really know what else there is to say about Battleship, because once again, there's no real
adapted.
Plot. Yep, it's purely ludic. Like that's what the game itself is, just a whole series of rules basically.
Yep.
Which you can kind of draw like arguments to be made that is like playing the game itself. There is a narrative you are creating there, but it is emerging out of interacting with the rules as opposed to there actually being a narrative well around it. So, with all that out of the way, how was Battleship adapted from Battleship? Yeah.
They essentially play Battleship in the middle of the game. That's about it.
Yeah, but kind of, but also kind of not, because the ships move.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a more... See, this is the thing what I think is interesting about adaptation. That is like the only scene in the movie, basically, outside of the general premise of it's ships versus ships, that it draws from the original game. But they don't even play a proper game of Battleship. Like it is... No. They're not getting fired upon, and the ships are perpetually moving.
Yeah. They do get fired upon, but they avoid it by going backwards.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the kind of thing. Like the movement and the dynamic of the fact that the ships can move is not part of the original game, which is kind of weird. But I'm kind of in two minds about that change, because on one level it makes sense from like a filmmaking perspective, because it adds like a level of dynamicness to, as opposed to just two people standing in the same spot and like firing at each other. Like that's not an interesting fight at the very least. Actually adding some other level of complexity to it just makes it a more interesting sequence. But at the same time, it's also just not accurate to the original game.
I think they could have actually done it, still had it be dynamic, but more like the original game if they still kept the other ships that were involved and didn't kill them off almost immediately. And so the Battleship part was multiple like cruisers taking on multiple alien ships.
Yeah, sure.
Before like it comes down to just one-on-one, and then it goes into the rest of the film.
Yeah. That would actually make a lot of sense, in all honesty, because for the moment the aliens arrive, it's essentially a slaughter for a good long while when they're on the back foot perpetually for like, I don't know, maybe half an hour of the movie, until they finally turn it around in kind of the end of the second act and the beginning of the third act. So
can we just quickly point out the fact that also the aliens seem to have more of a grasp of the rules of combat than the humans did?
What do you mean exactly?
As in, they knew when to like not fire on non-hostiles and...
Yeah, sure. Which is kind of funny considering the distance they've traveled basically just to blow us up. So, and
the fact that the weird things where it's like, oh, they've turned away, we're not going to fire on them. And like, that's an innocent person who's freaking for his life. I'm not going to kill him.
Yeah. Funny that.
But the Americans were straight in there like, yep, first attack, let's go.
America!
We don't know what this is. We're going to fire on it immediately.
Yeah, exactly. It could be communist. Who knows? We can't take that chance.
But we're going to drag our allies into it no matter what. Or Japanese battleships, and then immediately the Japanese. I'm like,
yep.
Fine, let's keep going. And until they eventually, like, pull him around, he's also like, I don't give a shit about our allies.
Yeah.
Let them drown.
Yeah, it's real dumb. No, I can kind of see that at the very least. I appreciate that because it would have been really easy for the film to not even like just play some sort of like lip service or pay some sort of lip service to the game, but didn't need to actually put it in the game itself. So the fact that there was even just a sequence based on the board game, I was originally surprised watching the movie.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is more slavish than I ever expected because I didn't expect any level of fidelity.
Yeah.
But hey, I mean, props to them, I guess. I don't know. I don't really like complimenting this movie very much. It feels weird.
There's another point of fidelity that I want to bring up in the fact that there's a classic image on the internet of one of the original board game covers for Battleship.
Yeah.
And it is of the
I've
father
seen
and the
this
son
one.
playing it, while the mother and the sister are off in the background doing the dishes.
It's right in the kitchen.
And it's that, I feel that is basically adapted more in this than the actual game.
I mean, you're right though, because his girlfriend isn't on the ship.
No.
Like, it's just she's off doing her own thing, basically. Not cleaning dishes, I guess, but like has her own thing to do, separate from the big boys on the ship. So
It's incredibly set in that very 1950s mindset, like 1950s upper class America, where it's just like, yep, the men are off doing the hard work and yay military and aggressive masculinity is the key to victory.
we're blowing each other's ships for fun because we're men.
Yes. And even the women are men in the one case of the one female that's actually on the ship.
Yeah, that's right.
Is somehow the most masculine of all of them.
Yeah, funny that. It's real dumb. It's this movie is very reductive and conservative in the way that Michael Bay movies are, in that it is super pro-military, super racist, super conservative, super misogynist, like all of the things. Yeah. But I did not make that connection, actually. Who knows? Maybe it was intentional. Maybe this was supposed to be
You're giving this movie too much credit.
No, I absolutely am. But it's fun. Why not? But maybe it's The Greatest Showman all over again. It's like completely. It is secretly self-conscious of the fact that it's based on a board game. It's not. It's absolutely not. No. But I once again I find that a very funny idea. I mean, I have talked about this on the podcast before. I don't remember in what context, but I remember hearing this theory once that Michael Bay is one of the greatest film satirists of our generation.
Oh, yes.
Because he has basically made the most obnoxious, like absurd, crass, like version of entertainment, and people are lapping it up. The thing is, I think he's doing it completely unselfconsciously. But I just find that argument very funny. And because Battleship is basically a Michael Bay wannabe film, you can make a similar argument for this. Once again, I don't think it's true, but I think it's an interesting idea.
It's like if he tried to make an entire career based of Starship Troopers without fully grasping the satire behind it.
Yeah, exactly. It's Starship Troopers without the satire.
Yeah.
That's a very good analogy, actually. I really like that. People should go see Starship Troopers as well. It's very good. It's very good. It's what this movie should have been. Yep. I mean, if we're going to talk more specifically about the adaptation, at least, how exactly did you feel about bringing in aliens? Because obviously there is no science fiction premise at all to the original game, like not even a sliver of that genre. Like, how do you feel about them really specifically turning it around in that respect? Because, like, based on the game, it could just be a straightforward military sim, like, you know, Hunt for Red October or something like that. How did you feel about it having to be science fiction?
Given the rest of the film and the script and everything, I'm glad that they went for the very just generic evil faceless goons that they're attacking, because if they try to bring a political element into this film, it would just oh god,
it's not smart enough for that.
No,
that's a powder keg just waiting to happen.
And too jingoistic, nationalistic America rah rah for it to get any subtleties into this at all.
Yeah.
It would just be like, classic. Just throw in some, I don't know, Russians. It's from that area where it seems like it was made in that time where the Russians were the bad
Oh, yeah,
guys.
exactly.
Even though in 2012 they'd already moved on to Middle Eastern people being generic bad guys.
But they don't own battleships. What are you talking about? They could probably figure out some sort of plot to do that.
And look, the rest of the film feels like it was made in the 1960s.
It's very true. Just with a contemporary budget, obviously.
So
much money.
It's feasible that they just doing Cold War Part 2.
Yep.
I mean, the same way Rambo was Vietnam Part 2.
Yeah.
But this time we win.
Yeah, we kill them aliens.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of way that aliens are used a lot in these types of movies, right? Like, they are literally just a stand-in for the other. Like, science fiction in so many respects is representing aspects of our current time, but through futuristic or like fantastical lens in some respects. That is, in many ways, what fiction is supposed to do. And aliens have, contributed to that in so many ways. Like, it's same in Independence Day or like Mars Attacks and other films like that. And having it as a stand-in, you're absolutely right. That's a really good point, that it means that they can make it more rah America because everyone can band together against another species that literally are not even human, like aliens. But I mean, like, metaphorically speaking, they are a stand-in for, as you say, like, the communists in the 80s, the Middle Easterns in the 2000s, that I would almost say the Chinese of the 2010s, but no, because they want movies to make money in China, so they're never going to put the Chinese as the bad guys.
No.
But yeah, it is absolutely stand-in. That's actually a really good point. I didn't even think about that, because mostly I just thought aliens were dumb. And they did it, like, because Transformers. Because nothing about the alien designs is interesting at all.
No.
Like, it's completely and utterly generic, so...
They've got one weakness. It's light, but also not, because... some of the guys take their heads off and fine.
Exactly. That's really strange. Like, there's literally a couple of scenes with them without the helmets off, and it's like nothing. I don't know. Like, they didn't even commit to the whole War of the Worlds thing of, they've invaded a world where they are literally one of their core weaknesses is a major part of this world. It's like coming to Earth and you're suddenly realizing, oh, wait a minute, we're allergic to water. This is a problem.
Well, let's put our ships in the water then.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's dumb. And I mostly thought, it was basically just a crutch just to make just a generic antagonist, essentially, outside of that. But you're right. The alternative could have been much, much worse.
Yes.
Yep, it's very true. The lesser of two evils, as one may say.
Yes. And I feel bad because you mentioned the fact that, in sci-fi, it's tackling a lot of modern issues, and sci-fi of all the genres is probably the one that's used to make the most political, like...
Oh, yeah.
Messages.
It is an incredibly politically charged genre sometimes. Yeah.
And so the use of aliens as the other in those situations can be done really well, but it's such a disservice in this film because it is just cannon fodder.
Yeah.
In the worst way.
Yeah.
To the point where I started empathizing with the guys that were killing us.
Yeah, it's a bad time. I mean, a couple of those aliens like really suffer in this movie.
Also, was there a random, like... in that scene where they first take off the helmet of the one that they've captured, and it just, like, there's a flashes in his eyes of, like, worlds blowing up and stuff.
Yeah.
Was that, like, backstory for them, or, like, a premonition of the future for what they were trying to do, or did any of that apply in anything whatsoever?
I have a theory. It was the concussion.
Wait, his concussion just flashed up in that moment, or did the alien also now have a concussion?
Yes. To both those things. He got knocked in the head, right? Maybe they're all concussed. Maybe it's just perpetual concussions. Maybe this movie is actually secretly about, like, the threat of brain damage after getting hit in the head numerous times. Yeah, no, that was weird. That felt like a subplot or some sort of, like, plot point that was kind of completely cut, but they left the vigil in. But yeah, it could have been the concussion. Who knows?
This entire movie was just one human and one alien concussed out of their head, stuck in the middle of the ocean.
One human and one alien playing Battleship together in real life. But because they're concussed and because they have such a vivid imagination, they're making all of this up in their head. Yep.
Oh, I feel bad for him now.
That's actually kind of sweet. Imagine that. But imagine if the movie ended basically where it just kind of zoomed out and it was just like a dad and son playing Battleship together.
With a wife and sister off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the dad's like, it's basically Taylor Kish. And then the son's like, and all my ships are now aliens. And Taylor Kish is like, That's not how the game works, but fine, okay, aliens. And it basically contextualizes everything as we essentially watched an incredibly serious, dramatic representation of a game of Battleship. Damn it, I just figured out what my do it differently is. Oh, I had a different idea, but this
I'm
is
going
good.
to move my ship. No, you can't. Fine. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But imagine how much better that would be. Like, they do it like The Princess Bride, where it opens like that. It opens with the dad and son starting to play the game and constantly cuts back to them for jokes.
Oh, see, I was imagining a Lego movie type scenario where there's this, like, giant outside force controlling it, and then it halfway through, then it's revealed that it's the father and son.
Oh, that would also be very good. But I mean, like, legitimately, like, how much of a better premise is that? Because not only is it more faithful to the idea of the fact that it's based on a board game, but it's just a really fun narrative concept that you could do a lot of really delightful things for. And you could make it, like, more of a family-friendly thing as well.
Yeah.
So, god damn it. I'm back to being annoyed at this movie.
And just, what is it? Mahalo mother, bang. Because it can just be the kid going, Mahalo mother, no!
Damn! No, where did you hear that? Who told you that word? And the dad is concussed too.
They're just trying to keep him awake until the ambulance arrives.
Oh, jeez. No, that's way too dark. Oh, God. But also, I would watch that. We're going to have to cut out so much of this laughter. What the hell are we talking about? Battleship, concussed. I don't know.
Concussed?
We've got...
Is that the new theory?
Maybe I'm concussed after watching this movie. We went on like 3 different tangents there, and now I don't remember where we were originally.
Fuck it, do it differently.
No, all right, we're moving to do it differently quickly. But before that, I want to go through some of my notes that I made.
Oh,
just like
yes.
key plot points that I want to talk about. Okay, so my literally first note is, oh God, ... It starts with text and exposition. Because that is obviously very classic. They use the Pink Panther theme when he tries to break in to get the chicken burrito.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, they just had the Pink Panther theme playing in the background.
What?
Like, why? It's just because what, the Benny Hill theme was too expensive or something? Like, yeah, anyway, I thought that was strange. It's just a whole series of reference about how this is Bay wannabe. Yeah, vaguely racist. Oh yeah, he casually joined the Navy. Apparently he was already part of the Navy. I looked it up afterwards, and there's a few details on like his shirt and things like that he was already part of the Navy. Which doesn't make any sense considering his brother saying, you're going to join me in the Navy?
And also, you have to get a job beforehand in the bar.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's possible he could have been, like, previously in the Navy or something, but they never reference that or anything. Like, it's... I don't know. It's also very strange.
Quick to point out, when you start in a relationship, if your first interaction with your potential... partner is them trying to hand you off-brand petrol station... food they've just microwaved while being tased by the police. Red flag. Red fucking flag. Don't go out with this person anymore.
But it's endearing, right? Like, look at all the effort he went through just to get her a chicken burrito. Isn't that romantic? And
I draw the line at property damage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those really bad generic... Like, not even generic, just like flat out bad movie romances where in real life you're like, yeah, you two are legitimate psychopaths.
Yep.
What are you doing? No, just stop. Put on your big boy pants. Stop breaking into gas stations in the middle of the night to get a chicken burrito and just stop. Reevaluate your life. Join the Navy.
Use your upper head, not your lower head.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very good. That should be the Navy's catchphrase, actually. No, not that. Like, reevaluate your life. Join the Navy.
Oh, not use your upper head, not your lower head.
That's the subtitle.
I'm pretty sure using the lower head is how they get the recruitment.
Yeah, exactly. So
look at this big fucking cannon metaphor.
This is a tangent, but have you seen the Batman and Superman front cover of them sitting on like the giant cannons on a battleship? Like,
no.
It's Batman, Robin, and Superman on the front cover of a comic, and they're each sitting on one of the guns on the front of a battleship, like right next to each other. Like, it is deeply phallic.
Okay, was it
completely
intentional to be
unselfconscious.
based on like Navy and phallic stuff, or were they just ripping off Cher? Because really, I hope they're ripping off Cher.
It was out in like the 40s or 50s or something.
Okay,
There was
damn
a,
it.
There was a series where those comics went through like a propaganda thing of like support,
Yeah.
you know, I think it was during World War
Support the
II.
troops.
Yeah, exactly. Support
Yeah.
the troops and buy bonds and things like that. I'm pretty sure it was in that vein. So.
Okay.
But yeah, no, deeply phallic. That
Now
is
I
the
really want
military,
Superman
though, right?
dressed as Cher sitting on the sitting on the cannon. of
Make
the
that
battleship.
happen, fan artists. I almost said fan theorists. That's not right. Yes. Anyway, moving on. Poor Jesse Plemons. Jesse Plemons is actually a really good actor. He's in Breaking Bad. If you've seen Breaking Bad, he's fantastic. He's in a lot of stuff. I know him as Meth Damon as well, because I've heard him, which is quite rude. But a lot of people talk about him as like an off-brand Matt Damon.
But at least he goes on to eventually run his own ship in Black Mirror.
That is true, actually. Ugh, God. Yep, that's not fun.
But at least Black Mirror knows about subtlety
Yeah, that's true.
and knows who the bad guy is. And
Yeah, funny that. Yeah. That is a very good episode, though.
yeah, go watch that episode.
Yep, USS Callister. It's on Netflix. Black Mirror. It's very good. And Jesse Plemons is fantastic.
Season 4,
in it.
episode 1.
That's the one. Yep. Outside of that, there's an obligatory scene in China, which is obviously a big surprise because it probably made a bunch of money in China. Wildly uninteresting alien designs. Oh, that's right. The way they show how badass Taylor Kitsch's character is that he is unable to keep his sunglasses off during the opening Navy scene. Like when he's on the deck of the ship, like people keep telling him to take his sunglasses off. It's almost like a parody of Top Gun, like Tom Cruise in Top Gun wearing those shades.
He even does that again when he's on the unknown alien craft after coming in on the dinghy. And he like takes them off so he can put them back on again.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's nonsense. I mean, once again, if this movie was self-conscious, that would be a very, very funny joke. Like if they were legitimately poking fun at like that kind of machismo, cool guy wearing sunglasses thing. But it's not. It's literally just him putting sunglasses on multiple times in the one scene.
And then being an idiot and touching the weird non-earthian metal and getting zapped.
Yep.
Probably adding to his concussion and having to rely on better people than him to rescue him.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yet he somehow still gets the reward.
Yeah, exactly. He's still the hero at the end of the day because...
Oh, the more I talk about it, the more I hate this movie.
Yep. That's the thing. This is the thing. Like, I didn't hate... Well, look, I didn't hate it while watching it. I had a dumb fun time because it's a bad movie. Just in that entertaining respect. But yeah, this movie is legitimately awful in so many respects. We haven't even talked about the weird tangents when they launch those, like, circular balls out into the city and just start destroying a bunch of things that is completely unrelated to the plot. And we never see those again. Are they still rampaging? In the world of Battleship, it's 2020 now. Like, for 8 years have those balls just been on a rampage, just like constantly. Were they ever stopped? We never see what happens to them.
Actually, yeah, and they do that weird flashy, like, red and green hostile, non-hostile sort of target.
Yep.
But decide randomly that out of everything, the kid playing baseball, not hostile, but the fucking road.
The pillars are.
The pillars are hostile. They're clearly menacing eyes.
Yeah, of course. God damn, that concrete is giving me side eyes. They felt threatened. They weren't metal like them.
And the helicopter that takes off just gets crapped, and then just phallic symbol number 2 comes out of the balls and chops off the helicopter's tail.
If it chops off another Felix. Oh, goddamn. Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah, let's. I don't want to go through all my notes at the very least, but it's mostly this movie is weird and dumb and bad, and especially the third act feels like an advertisement for the Navy.
Yeah.
Yep. In the Navy.
Oh, I want to see that montage at the end, but instead of Thunderstruck, it is the village people doing in the Navy.
In the Navy.
You can sail the 7 seas in the Navy. This is copyrighted music.
In
I
the
hope we're not
Navy.
singing.
That's right. No one's ever going to listen to this anyway.
What are you talking about? I'm keeping this in.
Oh, yeah, of course. Oh, what's his name? All right, shall we move into do it differently then?
Yeah.
Jingle,
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 jingoism.
Hey, very good. That was good. Sly.
Thank you.
Did you come up with that on the spot again? Or?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Nice
And
job.
I'm still trying to work out how I can get jingoism into the conversation.
Ugh, that just sounds gross, honestly.
Yeah, but it's basically what the cannons were doing, just firing their jingoism all over the place.
Can you please stop saying that?
What, jingoism?
It's making me very uncomfortable. Do you want to go first or shall I?
I don't mind.
Okay, I'll go first. As much as As much as I love the idea of panning out and like it's actually a boy and his father playing Battleship this entire time, I think that is a really, really fun idea. I'll leave that for the podcast. I'm going to go with my original Do It Differently, which was turn this into a long-running anime series in the vein of like Yu-Gi-Oh! And what's his name, Beyblades and things like that, and Pokemon, of just like, like the card game-based anime, when it's like a plucky young upstart who just wants to play Battleship because his dad gave him a Battleship set when he was young. And there's like a bully kid who he later befriends, and then he has to join a tournament. And everyone in the tournament is like this weird enigmatic player who like plays Battleship differently. And just make it like a...
They're all holograms that can somehow hurt you.
Yeah, exactly. The holograms that hurt you in real life. And it's all done incredibly dramatically. Like someone says, B4. And then it cuts to like 6 different people's eyes with all this flashing music and everything like that. Like... Just go all in. That's what I want. I want a Battleship anime.
And then you keep like adding new rules to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And suddenly Gundams are involved.
Yeah, the battleships can transform.
Yep.
And then if you lose at battleships, you get trapped in, I don't know, Davy Jones' locker or something. just go all in. Just make it like... It's a really dumb idea, but if they went, if they did it self-consciously and like made fun of the genre of like that type of anime itself, like basically making a mockery of Yu-Gi-Oh, I would be more than okay with it. I think that would be very, very funny. So
yes,
yeah.
Although don't mock Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh is fantastic, and I see no flaws.
yeah. But you also love Yu-Gi-Oh Bridge, though, right?
Yes, yes, I do.
If people have not seen, I don't know if the clip is on YouTube or somewhere, but look up Uno as an anime. That is basically what I want for the Battleship game. It's very, very good and very funny. I know at least this episode, I Do It Differently, are probably not going to be the same. So.
No.
Yeah. What have you got?
Although
for
there
us?
is one similarity.
Oh, really?
In the fact that I am also shifting medium away from a movie into a TV miniseries.
Oh, interesting.
Specifically, an episode in a larger TV miniseries will be based on Battleship. In the larger Hasbro-based Entertainment One flagship miniseries, that is Risk.
You're right. Yes, go on.
So Risk being...
Before you had my curiosity, but now, good sir, you have my attention.
I thought you were about to say you have my concern.
Well, I'll hear the pitch first.
Okay. So I'm thinking Risk as a sort of semi-anthology series where it's just focusing on all these different stories in a larger mass world war. Where it's like one episode is focused on the generals leading with their like Risk game board set up to work out how to create the proper battle strategies. One episode is based on Battleship, where it's looking at one of the smaller sea battles going on at the time where they lose their radar systems and they're relying entirely on like old outdated equipment on both sides, and you're looking at both ends as shooting into the dark and trying to take out each other's fleet, and a close look at the characters inside these trapped vessels in the dark from both sides and get real political with it.
Ooh, fancy.
Have another episode based on Monopoly. Where you're looking at how the cities are rebuilding after like a blitz style system, and make it real, like almost like capitalistic class warfare system, and all the undermining that goes into like setting up the grants and the political intrigue and the corruption. Basically Hasbro board games under a Risk banner for a 6-part miniseries anthology season.
This sounds incredibly ambitious, and I'm very much on board. I mean, I don't know what like the characters or like a good chunk of the plot of the episodes.
Well,
like...
it's semi-anthology, so it's like each episode is focusing on new characters.
Sure.
It just happens that it's all under the banner of this one giant war, and so sometimes they occasionally interact.
Interesting. All right, this is very good. I have one question for you, though.
Yep.
Who plays the Monopoly Man? I need a legitimate answer to this. This has plagued me, because I legitimately don't know who I would cast for him.
In this particular version,
okay.
John Goodman.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. My personal choice would have been Tim Curry, but...
Oh, yeah.
yeah. I'm pretty sure we joked about that in the Clue episode, didn't we?
Probably.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah.
Yeah, he'd be for an actual, like, satirical look at Monopoly, but for this super serious, like, Band of Brothers style anthology, John Goodman.
Yep. I could see that. I could see him with a mustache and a monocle, honestly. Yeah.
Or possibly Daniel Day-Lewis. I think the world's ready for a method Monopoly man.
No, we don't want that because he would legitimately like just become a billionaire or something. He would get so deep into the role of Monopoly Man, like method act. He would literally start a company and just, I don't know, become the next Jeff Bezos or something like that. Like that's how deep he would go into the role. I don't think the world is ready for that.
The weird spiritual sequel to There Will Be Blood.
Actually, I desperately want to see that. That'd be really good. All right, great. I think we did it differently. Good job, us. Still better than the movie.
Yep.
Oh boy. All right. Shall we move into random recommendations then?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm gonna do a special thing this week and actually refer people back to an episode or a film that we've previously done an episode on.
Is it Clue?
It's Clue.
Yeah.
Just watch Clue. Like if you want to watch a legitimately good board game movie that has fun in the idea that it is adapted from a board game, just watch Clue. Clue is almost certainly the best board game adaptation to a film, like probably made to this point. We did an episode on it. It was really fun to talk about. We watched it for that episode. I hadn't seen it before that, and it is now one of my favorite comedies of like that year. Basically, it is really, really great. Hence Tim Curry. Tim Curry is a delight.
Yep.
And just everyone go watch Clue and then listen to the episode.
Yeah.
So,
I second that entirely.
Yep. Self-promotion, baby.
Yeah.
All right. What do you got for us?
So I am going to recommend basically a kind of board game.
Oh, okay.
Because, I mean, I don't know what else I'm meant to...
Sure. Is this the first board game recommendation? Maybe.
I feel I would have done something else.
Yeah, potentially. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's not even really a board game. It's just sort of a party game. But Skulls.
Oh!
It's one we played recently.
Yes. It's very good.
Very psychological.
Uh-huh.
It's like what you were saying about Battleship. In the fact that you have to know your opponents and think about how they'd react to different scenarios and how you can play off the different things.
Yep. Which is why it's really good fun playing with a large group of friends.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. Especially people you know. And so I reckon it's like a better, quicker version of Battleship, I reckon.
Yeah. Much more straightforward. Like, it's a really good pub game as well, and that you don't need many things. You could literally do it with scraps of paper.
Yeah. Like coasters, literal coasters.
Yeah, exactly. Like, not even like, you could just have, if you just have pieces of paper and then write, like, a tick on one side and, like, a cross on the other or something, and then just put that down, like, every other time, it's totally doable. So, yeah. That's really cool.
So, yeah, I recommend playing that next time.
Yeah, it's really good. Skulls is really good. Can confirm. We had a fun time, so... Thank you to everyone who listened to this episode of Medium Shift. We can be found at mediumshift@gmail.com. Feel free to send in your, battleship strategies or something like that. How do you place your battleships? Where do you put them on the board? Are you like one of those weird people who puts them all on the outside? Do you put them in the middle? Are you completely random? What kind of person are you?
And just send these emails out to just anyone.
Yeah.
Just
anyway.
hope that eventually you'll get us.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it doesn't matter, like, how many emails it gets through before it gets to us. Like, just let the world know. You know, that's a fun way of finding something out about someone, right? How they play Battleship. Great. All right, next episode, we are going to be causing a violence dispute with persons of a relative status to us.
Well, clearly someone's been playing the Thesaurus game.
Hey.
It looks like I'll be taking over with Fighting with My Family.
Yeah, I don't know very much about this. I haven't seen it. Apparently it's a movie about, boxing, wrestling, something. A fight of sorts. Like, there's fighting in the name. Yeah, I don't know anything. But anyway, it's going to be a fun episode. This was a fun episode. So until next time, fare thee well.
You sunk my battleship.
Blah, blah, blah.